You cannot save everyone, and the universe let me know that in a really annoyingly profound way.
Mm.
Can make a difference. You can have impact, not on everyone, but on some. You have to practice pitching. It is like the piano. 8 freaking notes make every single piece of music we've ever heard. If you don't practice those 8 notes a lot, you will not be good at what you do. How many times have you ever practiced your pitch? You know, if you are looking for love, what I needed to do to find love at 57 was to, A, really fall in love with me.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get it started. Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host today, and in the studio, we have Forbes Riley. How are you, ma'am?
I am amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what you did to me? Oh, I was sitting at my counter, minding my business, scrolling through YouTube, and, I'm not a dessert person. I don't eat a lot of sweets. But that day, I was just like, you know what? Let me just grab a little bit of ice cream. I'm sitting here eating this ice cream, and then this video of you comes on talking about discipline and saying no to snacks and stuff like that. I was just like, are you kidding me?
That's the least of it. Let me tell you something. And I know your audience may not get to know me very well just yet, but they will in a moment. I do more than that. So I've been in the National Fitness Hall of Fame since 2010, sold more fitness products, and you've heard me on infomercials and see me in your bedroom a lot more than you realize. But last year at this time, my family and I were in a really bad tour bus accident in Iceland, and the tour bus ran off the road, crashed onto the ground. My face goes through the glass. I end up, yeah, I know. I still have my cheek, my eye, my face, my brain, but I'm married to a professional bodybuilder, and I never cared to do anything in that world. In fact, last year at this time, Mr. Sweet Eater, I was 35 pounds heavier and 13. We both went in and got our fat checked. He was
Uh-huh.
9% on his off season. I was 33. And as we come out of this accident with some pretty bizarre PTSD, we go to fly home from Iceland. And as we get to the airport, the volcano explodes. So
Oh,
now there's this world-class volcano, and my brain is still trying to process what the heck's going on. And my husband turns to me and says, there's a bodybuilding competition in our hometown. He said, and I need to be part of it because it qualifies me for the Olympia. I'm like, good for you. There's a category for women over 60. I said, good for them. That's a bikini competition. I haven't worked out in 5 years. I built a huge business. I've been
uh-huh.
sitting on my butt. I'm pretty chunky at the moment. Life is good. Leave me alone. And then something happened. I don't know if it's somebody reached out to me in my kitchen through a little internet, but it said, go for it. And I remember thinking, go for what? And I looked up what it means, and these girls are in bikinis, but there is a competition over 60, and I just turned
Mm.
65 last week. I'm 64 years old, and I'm like,
Birthday.
thank you very much. And it really is, because I have another one. I might not have gotten to this birthday, and that's the big point of this lesson, is that what are you willing to do if you knew you couldn't fail, if it didn't matter?
Yeah.
And so I go on my mastermind. I've got hundreds of people every Wednesday night, and I say, guys, I survived this car accident, and I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition. And I don't know how you do it. In fact, my girlfriend just showed me the bikini you wear, and I can't get one thigh in the entire bikini. I think I'm in trouble. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but in 99 days, I'm going to do this. And I'm looking for a photo to share with you because it's on my Instagram feed
Hmm.
that should inspire you and everyone else out there to go, there is nothing that's impossible. It's how do you make it possible is the question. And so when I looked in the mirror, I saw this. The left-hand side of that, not bad for 60 something.
Okay.
67 days later, I'm rocking that bikini,
Amazing.
and 99 days later, I entered the competition looking like,
Amazing.
"Oh my god." And I will tell you, I not only did that, but I got medals for it, and I've gotten medals ever it's like, "Oh my god, the universe applauds you when you take action and own your body and live up to your expectations." So let me see what else I can just share with you real quick. I'm just so proud of this because I didn't know I could do it.
Uh-huh.
Watched my husband do it forever. There is, in fact, is my husband. People always go, "Is he real?" Yes, he's well, I have a little game that I play. I say to people, "If you see a picture of my husband and you don't say, 'Wow,' I'll give you $100." Right? Well, no, but then I show them this picture and they usually are like, "Oh, wow, okay."
Wow.
No, no, wait, no, this is the picture. This is what do you say to that picture?
Wow.
So now I've guilted you that you're never going to eat sweets again. You're going to the gym. You're changing your life. Yes, Forbes Riley.
You get it. You get it. Yes, the gym is a very big part of my life, but it was just one of those days, you know? It was just one of
And
those
by the
days.
way, with my blessing, Rick, you're allowed to do that. That's the thing that I learned. You're allowed to treat yourself great. You're allowed to put things in your mouth and not feel bad about them. You're allowed to take, I worked with Jack LaLanne for 8 years. I sold
Mhm.
$1 billion worth of juicers. And Jack said, it's not what you do some of the time that matters. It's what you do all of the time.
Yeah, 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 100%, 100%. That was something I really enjoyed about watching, like, some of your videos. I mean, you get so personal with people. You make people feel seen and heard and felt. It's just like, that is so cool, you know? That's so amazing. I mean, you're like the I was watching something yesterday. I think it was one of your I think it was one of your older videos from a couple years ago, and you just come through the camera like you were talking to me. I'm just like, wow, that's a gift.
No, it absolutely is a gift. I'm going to share with you. Of all the things that it could be, in
Uh-huh.
fact, it is my gift. I have no idea how it happened because I grew up as a very ugly, awkward little girl, very self-conscious. And I've been telling this story a lot because I think people need to hear and understand that they're not alone and understand that you are the sum of the obstacles that you overcome. We have all got baggage and stories. The difference between me and most, I've harnessed the pain of those stories and made it to matter more than I do. So,
Yeah.
one of the first stories that I tell, which I've only really realized since I've been speaking on publicly on stages, is that very fixated on my dad. My dad thought the world began and ended with me, his first daughter out of two. And
Oh.
what happened was when I got to elementary school, though, they noticed it's kind of funny. My dad had a gap in his teeth, just like you do.
Mhm.
I had a gap, but it wasn't a good gap. My gap was indicative of the fact that my jaw had a deformity on it, just the way it was organized. My mother is a Ukrainian immigrant who hoarded and saved things. So they took an impression of my mouth and she saved it from 1968.
Mm.
That's my mouth. We would take this out and just scare kids at Halloween. And they put me in braces, which is not a big deal. Everybody ends up in braces, but not for 8 years. That
Mm.
was the beginning part. So I get a full set of braces, headgear, rubber bands,
Oh,
and
wow.
that they bolt this thing to the roof of my mouth. And now I can't talk for 2 years. I'm
Yes.
unable to communicate. What happens when you can't talk? You listen. You
Yes.
watch other people. You feel bad, I gotta tell you, because I also was very overweight. I had broken my nose when I was a little girl, and no one ever fixed it, so it just grew on the big face of my face. Big, fat, frizzy hair. We loved each other with food, so I was overweight. My mother turns to me, the worst part of this is now I'm going through life as a very isolated, very smart, but very lonely kid. And my dad, God bless him, built that printing press. He's an inventor, magician, and crazy guy, very no social skills, but he could do all that in his sleep. One day, he slips and he cuts off the whole front of his left hand.
Oh my
And he spends 3 years, my entire high school, in the hospital, 15 different operations.
goodness.
And my mom turns to me at one point and she said, "Kiddo, I'm really so sorry. I know you've skipped a year of high school. You're very smart. We have no money for college." To which it was like, but she said, "But wait, there is a beauty pageant coming to town, the Miss Teenage America pageant." And then she looked at my face and said, "It's not going to work for us." And I will never forget that moment. There's nothing like somebody believing in you or somebody not believing in you. Both of those are very powerful tools. And my dad's doctor turned to my mother and said, "You guys have been through so much. I'm going to fix your daughter's nose because she really just can't breathe and it's not fair. So let me fix it." And I woke up a few days later and I looked a lot cuter than when I went to bed. Right. I know. All of a sudden, my eyes got bigger. My smile got brighter. I don't know how all that happened. But all I know is that little girl looked at me in the mirror and said, "Guess what? We're going to save our family. They've worked so hard for you and they deserve it. And you're the one to do this. So go get it." This is kind of a vision of what the doctor looked like. I got a hand me down bridesmaid's dress. I entered the Miss Teenage America pageant with 500 other girls for the very beginning one. And I said to my dad, one of these girls is going to be on TV with Bob Hope and it's going to be me. And whenever that
Nice.
conviction, manifestation, and there's a lot of girls who could have won this,
Mhm.
but I was the one who wanted it more than anyone else. And I will tell you,
Mm.
I got it and it changed everything. It was the beginning of my understanding that if you want something bad enough. Now, by the way, no bed of roses because I'm come from New York. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1977. And Rick, I don't know if you've ever experienced any form of prejudice in your life. Hello.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm from New York. I'm talking like this.
Uh,
They're like, y'all have the funniest accent I ever heard. I'm like, "What the fuck you talking about? I have an accent. How we talk in New York?" Oh my God. That mixed with being Jewish in a world where there were no Jews, they were like, y'all are so nice for a Jew. Where your horns? How come everybody in my town is, all the Jews are rich? I'm like, dude, I don't represent the Jew land. I have no idea. I didn't even know it was an issue. In fact, I grew up with Italians and Jews in my neighborhood, pizza, pasta, and matzah.
Mhm.
But there is another thing so I did end up going to college. That's my mom. That's my mom, by the way, 20 years younger than I am right now. And I'm running around in a bikini, just to be clear.
Mm,
That's a decision that I made. And I decided that, if you want to survive in this world, you're going to create something amazing. And that's how Forbes Riley came to be.
yeah.
Now, there is another little something that's kind of funny. I'm 10 years old
Mhm.
on Long Island, 1970. There's Jews, there's Italians, and that's it. There's no Asian, Puerto Rican, Black, there's nothing. And I mean, and who thought about that at that time? You're just living in your own little bubble, going about your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
I go to school one day, and the teacher's like, everybody with brown eyes has to stay after school, do extra homework, and pick up the trash. And with green and blue eyes gets to go home early, get extra credit. And I'm like, hey, I got Hazel. They're like, Hazel's brown. I'm like, no, not brown. They're green. So now for a week, we're being persecuted as 10-year-olds. We were picking up trash and doing horrible things and being called names, and it was a terrible week.
God.
At the end of the week, we go into the auditorium, and the principal's like, and we're just protesting. That was the 70s.
Hmm.
And he said, do y'all understand what we were doing? And none of us did. We're kids. He
Yeah.
said, here's the deal. There's a thing in this country right now of people who cannot change their skin color. You cannot change your eye color. And how bad did you feel because you were on the wrong side of that stick? And it was like, well,
Wow.
that was interesting. And so a couple of things came out of that for me. And I'm grateful that it did. Number one, when blue contacts came out, do you remember that? In New York
Yeah.
City, I couldn't wait to get blue because
Mhm.
some idiot put that blue was better in my head.
Mhm.
That kind of resonate, like, oh, what's better because of the way the world formulated? Okay. I get to college. I fall in love with my Black friends. I never met Black people before. I'm like,
Uh,
I dance like a Black person. I just do. I'm the only one downstairs at the college. I put the first Black and white acting groups together in my college. Which, by the way, they had they were two separate groups. I'm like, one's doing River Niger, and the other's doing whatever they're doing. I'm like, no, we're doing an urban musical. They just came to honor me 37 years later because I didn't see color in a way that nobody who's white or Black will ever experience that. Because
uh-huh.
I had no idea what was going on. And I'm like, it felt terrible. I'm like, that's just not fair. And then when it dawned on me that it's just not fair to judge somebody, and then I got a little boy, looked a little bit like you, a little darker than you. His name was
Mhm.
Dexter. When I first met my first husband, and we took Dexter in, Big Brother, Little Brother program became my boy. For
Okay.
12 years, I raised this kid with
Wow.
every ounce of who I am and what I could teach somebody who had no idea. In fact, my ex's dad used to live on the top of a mountain. He was the head of the Teamsters. Nice house, right? We get up there and Dexter's like, well, that's where white people live. I'm like, no, that's where green people live. He said, what do you mean? I said, the color of everybody here, white, Black, Puerto Rican, yellow, they're all different colors, but they all have one thing in common. Money they have.
Mm.
Money doesn't care what you see. And I taught him lessons like this. I got pregnant at 42 with twins. I gave birth to them in 2002 in December. 6 months later, my boy he was best man at my wedding, was walking from a haircut to church, USC, right down in South Central. He was wearing blue, and a kid who wanted to get into a gang walked right up behind him.
Oh,
He
no.
shot my Dexter 10 times in the back and left him for
Oh,
dead.
no.
So now my widow's on the cover of the LA Times.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, I am as well. I'm really sorry because Dexter was a great it would have been a great story. He would have grown up with my kids, and it was just what I wanted. But
Yeah.
what I got was a story about mentorship. The kid who killed him, who eventually after 3 years we found, who is confusingly spending 52 years to life in jail. Doesn't make he had 2 kids by the time he'd already done that. I don't, I just feel bad. He's a victim of his environment because he also didn't have a dad. And he didn't have a mentor. Dexter had a mentor. Dexter was never going to do that. Dexter saw the future because somebody believed in him.
Yeah.
So I've spent a lot of time mentoring people to believe in themselves, even when no one else does. You cannot save everyone. And the universe let me know that in a really annoyingly profound way.
Mm.
Can make a difference. You can have impact, not on everyone, but on some.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Well, what was that incident that let you know that you can't mentor everybody, you can't save everybody? Because I mean, that's a thing. Oh, and I know that I've gone through that too, trying to help every business owner, et cetera, but and then owning it as well, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I have 40. So here's what's interesting. I have over 47,000 students right now online all over the world in the last 5 years since COVID happened. And I teach a lot. I used to spend during the height of COVID 40 to 60 hours a week teaching people how to pitch.
Yeah.
Am I qualified? I'm one of the most qualified people on this planet because I've grossed $2.5 billion in sales.
Yeah.
I've done $1 million sales days. I literally just finished writing my latest book. I got a whole bunch of books here. I mean, it's kind of fascinating how many books I have lying around. And you're like, wait, how come you're still not Oprah? How come you're not that famous? I will tell you why. There's a real strong reason. So I just finished this one. This is going to press as soon as we talk because I've got some pretty big secrets. But why aren't I Oprah? That seems to be the big question. And it's because I've had talk shows and game shows. I helped launch the X Games alongside Stuart Scott. Do you remember him? Well, but I was second banana at a lot of things, and I got to a lot of things first. Like I got to cable TV, I got to all kind of things first. And first doesn't win the biggest accolade; it gets you the most arrows if you're a pioneer. And I also raised two kids. They're now 22-year-old twins who pretty much as a single mom. Their dad is we separated after Dexter, and it was very challenging. Both love our kids, but it's challenging when you are the breadwinner of your world and you're raising children. And
Yeah.
here's how good I raised my kids. My daughter, who's not going to college, made her first million at 18 and is the CEO of my company
Oh,
at
wow.
22. Twin brother and she have a second company that's just grossed to 500,000 in the last 3 months.
Amazing.
That's how you know you did a good job. Oprah, I love you, but you don't have kids. I spent a lot of time and energy investing in who they are, what they are, and I wouldn't change. Oh my God. I had the best friends, the best advocates, and the future of the next generation who can speak as well as I can, who can pitch, who can talk, who run companies. So it's a different path. We all have our own. But my goal now in 2025 is absolute domination. And I say that because I choose a word every year. 3 years ago, it was implementation.
Mhm.
And I created trainings and I have a huge speaker training course and I've got a year-long coaching and I've got all kind of courses that you can take to up-level your communication skills. I wrote all of them. I printed all of those books. I made all of that happen. And then after exhausting myself, the next year was delegation. Let's get people to do this so you don't have to do it all. That was a big lesson for me. And 2025 came around. I said, my world is domination. Domination of my own insecurities,
Okay.
domination of my own who I am and what I do, domination of the marketplace, and to finally step out and let the world go, wow, this person walked the planet. And like you, if I just inspired you to put the cookie down, um, that means a lot.
Yeah. 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 I can imagine. I can imagine. You talk about insecurities. I mean, you've been around the world. You host the X Games. You did all. Tell me about that. I mean, it doesn't resonate with me.
Okay, number one, what did you do before you did this? What's your occupation?
I'm a management consultant.
Okay, I decided to be an actress out of
Uh,
college. You know what actresses do? They
what?
spend all day getting rejected. You're not pretty enough. You're not tall enough. You look like my sister. I don't like you. Your voice sounds. And here's the crazy thing. I've worked my entire life. I have a new movie coming out in 2 months called No, it's June. In the end of June, it's a martial arts action picture, and I'm the bad girl. I have starred in feature films. I've been on TV series like 24 and As the World Turns, way more than you
Mhm.
would ever realize. But what that means is that you go into all these auditions, and for every one you get, there's 99 that you got rejected for. You imagine you're going on a job interview every day and people are rejecting you? That eats away at your freaking self-esteem. I
Yeah.
was I was in a relationship with a narcissist who ate away at my self-esteem. I had whatever issues, and then I was always chunky. And for some freaking reason, I don't know what it is. But by the way, I'm glad I was because I created a fitness product, a fitness empire because I was chunky. And what that means is that people would always pick on my weight. You got such a pretty face, but if you could just lose 15, I'm like, I was on Broadway with
Uh,
Christopher Reeve in a giant show,
wow.
and they made me go to Overeaters Anonymous. So as big as I would get, people just kept chipping away at my heels, and it fuels a lot of insecurities. And I was very ugly and awkward as a kid. A lot of that doesn't leave you,
Yeah.
and it reminds me about those insecurities. Well, but then you get to do it anyway. And so I am talented at communication, which is
Mhm.
crazy. So get this. In a lot of television series, I would play the reporter. I always had short hair and I sounded a certain way. So I got a lot of reporter roles. And I did it. I used one of my other major job things. I did a stand-up comedy show at ski resorts for 10 years. I didn't have enough money to go skiing, so I created my own world. And this is what I've done my whole life. I've created a lot of things out of nothing because I just wanted to.
Okay.
And I don't really know to me, no, NO means never ending opportunity. Doesn't mean that you're still not scared doing it. Do it anyway. And so there I am at ski resorts. And one day ESPN2 comes and makes a half-hour special out of what we're doing. Now, I wanted to be on television, so this was a really cool opportunity. Let me see if I can share this with you really quick because I don't play this one very often. And this is the funny thing. It helps having people believe in you, okay?
Mhm.
You always need that. So game show Forbes Riley. So I said to the organizers, look, I would like to be on camera. And they said, no, you don't work for ESPN and you cannot hold the little microphone because that's not, you don't work for us. I'm like, okay, well, all right. So Russ Francis, this guy used to play for the Patriots, comes in not the night before, but the next morning, walks up to me and says, hey, so tell me what we're doing. I said, I will tell you on the field. Bye. The next thing you know, and if I can find that one little piece of tape, at least because it's really pretty funny. Let's see. See if I can give this to you. No, that would not be. Wait, hang on a second. ESPN. And what's crazy about this, oh, here it is. So get this. He doesn't really know me. He doesn't really know what we're doing, but
Mhm.
I had a very clear intention. I was going to be a broadcaster. So get this. Okay, this is kind of fun. I don't get to do this often. So this is my very first on-camera job. And roll up there, isn't there? In a slot, ready to go. Safe where the
Dave Winter.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Russ Francis. We're at A Basin in Colorado for the Jose Cuervo Games of Winter. V-ball in the snow. Can you believe that? We're going to ask the host of this crazy event, Forbes Riley, what's going on? Oh, man, we do this event all... And so he and I start talking, and we end up talking all day. Like, we go through the entire event. He doesn't want to leave me, right? Great event. Right now we're doing the creativity part of it. Notice I'm still not holding the microphone yet, but I will.
Right.
And so what happened was ESPN saw that. I mean, then you go into my bar party at the end of the day. I mean, like, what is even a bar party? It's hard to explain the world that I created for myself, but it was brilliant.
Games, and what a great day of competition it was.
You know what? It's over for 1994. We've got some spectacular winners. We gave out $1,500 in cash, but 95 is just around the corner, and you two can...
So I'm doing all that, still not touching the microphone. ESPN calls me the next year and says, hey, we would like you to host the X Games. And I'm like, what's an X game? Nobody knew at that point. Well, because it wasn't really anything. But we'd like to pay you like $75,000, some ridiculous amount of money. And I'm like, you want me to do what? You do know I don't know anything about sports. And they're like, no, that's fine. So they hire me. And this is what that looked like. And it's crazy because you probably remember Stuart Stuff. Hang on a second. there's a commercial everywhere here. Don't go away. And so they said, yeah, we saw this piece of videotape a year ago. We thought you were amazing, and we'd like to give you this opportunity. I'm like, I'm not qualified, which is okay. Wait, it's coming. Wait, okay, so
It's a great pleasure.
this is one of my favorite moments here. So Stuart introduced.
Bye, Taco Bell.
Where's Stuart? Okay, so right here. So we all love Stuart. God rest him. I just love this.
Improve just like football and basketball players. They are serious competitors who leave as much sweat on the playing field as anyone. Well, for over 400 athletes from 6 continents, this is it. And on this show, every night except Wednesday, a review of the day's best and a look ahead to the next day. Sharing in on the fun, my Extreme Games partner in crime, Forbes Riley. Oh, Forbes.
Hey, Stuart, believe it or not, this place was not just constructed for the extreme games. Ford Adams has a...
I've never been on television before doing this. I'm doing a live show in front of millions of people. Let me share something with you. Turns out I'm really good at this. And not only do I do that, but we create these short little pieces. Like I literally took the bull by the horns. But here's the crazy thing, and I'm going to be very clear with everybody here. When they offered me this job, I'm like, they hired the wrong girl. I don't know anything about sports at all. Then these 2 binders show up of sports like street lugeing, sky surfing, BMX bike. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then 300 athletes. I'm like, they're going to find out they hired the wrong girl. And I showed up. I did all of this. In the back of my mind, they're going to find out. They're going to fire me. I thought that for every year for 6 years.
Wow.
That's how freaking insecure I was. Now, here's the funny thing. That piece of videotape you just watched, I did not see for 20 years later.
Really?
Well, because they gave it to me on a 3/4 inch, didn't have a machine to play that, and it's live. There was no DVRs back then.
Right.
And then one day, I am having a friend of mine upload all of this up on this new invention called YouTube. And I watched what you just watched, and I thought, holy schmoly, she's brilliant. She's you. You did not know, and you really didn't know how good you were for so long. And it's kind of a shame because I think I could have done a lot more if I hadn't been so rejected and so hurt.
Yeah.
But I'm also here who I am. I'm wildly compassionate. I understand people's flaws. I have a great intuition to help people, and I love doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you transition from like you're an actor to a business person?
Don't think actors aren't business people? It says show business.
That is true. That
No,
is true.
that is absolutely
But
what I heard. Go ahead. I made my first million at 27. No, you don't understand. I am the scrappiest kid you've ever met. I never wanted to be broke. I never took money from anybody. I created companies.
yeah.
I did my first company at 27,
Wow.
and we did really well. And I've always done that. I've always made money. I've always been kind of crazy scrappy. And then I just learned the principles of what it is I was doing. And then I transitioned online 5 years ago and crushed it.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. What was the most interesting venture you show us?
All right. So and it's a crazy story, and we don't have time to go into all of it. And if you haven't seen this, it's called a spin gym. And you can find it at Shop Spin Gym, but you wind it up, and this thing it pulls at 125,000 RPM. You can't believe what this can do for you. And I had a resistance band slip off my foot and shatter my nose.
Oh,
I was one of the first people to talk about uh, resistance bands on television. I was using it a little incorrectly, but it broke my nose. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to find something else.
uh-huh.
Because I don't know if you saw this part of my presentation, but how everything changed for me was I went into an audition, which actors do all the time, and I simply answered what was in front of me. And it said, "Sell me this pen." So, Rick, I don't know you very well, but I'm going to make you do this. You get 20 seconds. Sell me this pen.
20 seconds, sell you the pen. You know, you have a need to communicate with people. Sometimes you need to get something in writing in front of someone's face. And this is going to be the implement that you're going to use to do that.
Okay. Two things. Is it okay if I coach you in front of everyone?
Absolutely.
So number one, you said it twice. You said the word need. Now, the thing about me is I hear every word and every sigh and everything that everybody says. That's how I make a living, like doing commercials. You get 30 seconds and every millisecond counts.
Yeah.
You said need twice. Guys, if you're watching this broadcast, do this right now. Take out that pen and write this down. No one ever buys what they need, ever. They only buy what they want.
Okay.
So your job as an expert pitcher is to get them to want what you have. And as soon as you do that and stop talking about the product, you will win. 2.5 billion in sales. Now, I didn't know this back in 1991. I had no idea what I was doing, much like it said, sell me this pen. And so I don't like the word sale because I didn't grow up with any money. And that's like a lot of us. And so I got kind of awkward. Like, well, you know what? Maybe I just should not sell it, but hey, you know, I was 16 when I got to college. I was really young, really very insecure. And my mom would write longhand notes in ink every day. I'd race to the mailbox to get them to feel comfortable and secure because I realized a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. I dropped the pen, was ready to leave because I didn't know what I was doing. And this guy, can you see my screen? He walked out from behind the camera, grabbed my face and said, "You're going to make me a lot of money." I didn't know what he meant. What he meant was that I was the only actor to do that. And that I had this innate ability to pitch. Then without any training or any onboarding, he says, you're going to pitch all these health and wellness products. And this
Total fitness, total convenience, 24 hours a day. Now get ready for the latest in sports, fashion, and exercise gear on Fitness Plus.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and today we've got a great product for you. Take a look at this. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and backed by popular demand, the best way to develop rock-hard abdominals. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Fitness Plus. Now, if you want to burn calories and...
Total fitness, total convenience.
what you're watching all the way to here is 16 of the 1,500 products that I pitched on television. Now, the really crazy part about this is I just figured it out as I don't know why. I mean, I look at her and go, I don't know how she knew what she knew, but I did. Well, it's kind of like the little kid who's 3 years old who plays Mozart. We are all given some sort of gift. Michael can jump like that's a God-given talent, right? That's what this is for me, this ability to pitch. I don't know why it's mine, but it's definitely mine. And then Jake sells the network. He sells this to Fit TV for $500 million in 1993. It's a long time ago. And then this world of infomercials begins, and I am a pioneer in there because no one else knows how to sell, especially as a female. So I did 197 different infomercials, and that was that time. You know what's very funny about this? Last night and this morning, I talked to two of my co-stars, two guys that you've seen thousands of times. I haven't talked to them in a while. And it was kind of like old homework. I think it must have been like, Michael and Kobe and Jack going, hey, we experienced something that no one else ever has.
Mhm.
That's what the three of us, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. And I was just talking about, what is the ability to do that? Why was it us? Why was the timing? And that industry is dying. So we're also kind of going, we're a little phased out of doing that. It's morphed into video sales letters. It's morphed into QVC and home shopping. I did that for 30 years. It's morphed into selling on TikTok.
Yeah.
So everything has its season and its reason. But now, as always, people need to know how to communicate better. And that seems to be my job.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Wonderful. 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 So as an entrepreneur, we're in this place where we've got to go to market. We've got to be very authentic. We have to pitch ourselves, in addition to our products as a service providers. What would you recommend? I mean, you've got this new,
You know what? I'll tell you what I recommend. There's two kinds of pitching, and you and everyone I know should study both of these. The first one I call elevator pitch 2.0. It's how you introduce yourself and get someone to say yes to you.
Yep.
And the second is how you close deals. And why are they different? Because you have sweatpants and you have a tuxedo in your closet and you don't wear the wrong one to the wrong event, right?
for sure.
And if you've ever worn the wrong kind of thing to an event, you never do it again. So not one size fits all. First thing I ask when it comes to elevator pitch, Rick, and is it okay if I coach you at all?
Absolutely. Please do.
All right. So what do you do?
I'm a management consultant.
Good
I
for
help
you.
companies. I help
Okay,
companies.
hang on. No, I was gonna start by saying, guys, why don't you all write down what you do? Because if you start with the words "I help," you need because we don't now. And let me unpack this. We're not in a training at the moment, but if you guys can just listen, I asked, "What do you do?" That is the standard thing most people will when you network.
Yeah.
The bottom line, they don't care what you do.
Right.
Structural engineer, good for you. Why do I care? And so Rick, why did you even tell me that?
Just first thing that popped in my mind.
No, because you answered the question, because you graduated high school. We were taught to raise your hand, ask a question. That's what we were taught to do. I'm going to tell you something that gets you nowhere, because that's not what got me to say yes to your podcast. When people ask you what you do, and by the way, you all do a lot of things. I know that. But imagine the question is, hey, Rick, nice to meet you. What can you do for me? All of a sudden, you're going to do my 5 principles. You're going to make an assumption. Well, who is she? What does she do? What would she like? What do I know about her? What questions should I ask to know if I should go more? And
Mhm.
hey, Forbes, as someone who's a structural engineer by day, I'm very organized, but I've got a kick-ass podcast that I think you could really touch my audience. Want to
Mm.
be a guest? That's what you do. And I teach the fluidity of this, because the next thing that everyone does, which is so wrong, and it really speaks to my bigger pitching principle. I've got 5 principles in that system. One is assumptions. People, you would assume they would say this, but you talk to a 7-year-old, a 17-year-old, or a 70-year-old, and most people, 99.9%, will pitch them all the exact same way. They make no assumption or even think about the person listening. I've got my perfect pitch, little 7-year-old. I've got my perfect pitch, teenager. I've got none of it. It's not, there's such thing as a perfect pitch. For the 7-year-old, if I can figure out how to get him to say yes, or the teenager to say yes, or the grandfather, there's all different mechanisms. And you as a structural engineer know that. It's a different energy if you're using concrete, if you're using wood, if you're using steel, if it's water. There's so many considerations, and most people never do that. They were taught, hi, this is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. This is who I help and I serve and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? The next thing is given permission to say a springboard story, which is a sentence or two. So, Rick, I'm going to say that you do what you do because your dad was in your life.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did I know that? Because of how you turned. These are the quality of assumptions I've learned to make after a period of time. That was a big leap of faith. But there's a way about you that says to me, you had a strong role model in your life who also believed in you. That's not everybody. And I didn't, no matter who they are or what they look like, but I got that energy from you.
Okay.
So you decided to go into structural engineering. What'd your father do for a living? You didn't want to do that though. Right. You wanted to do something a little bit more hands-on, a little more intellectual. And all of the reasons that you do that are a springboard story. So if you're applying to build somebody's company or do whatever you do as a structural engineer, a little outside my scope, you might say, hey guys, you know what? I come from a long line of no engineers. But I've been so passionate about this concept my whole life. Let me tell you a story about my dad. And you literally dip down and explain to us why your heart is where it is and what you do.
Yeah.
We're more likely to want to buy from you. Most people never connect themselves to their story, to their what they're pitching. They pitch it over here. Hi, I've got this thing. I've got this thing. I don't do that at all. Then I created a piece of the program called Relatability. Relatability allows you to use the things that you are to affect the other person. So one of the things I say is, guys, you can sell things on your income level. I talked earlier about growing up with no money. So if I said to you guys, this is one of the most expensive perfumes that you can buy, somebody who's got no money or grew up with no money, I developed a keen sense of taste. And when somebody takes a whiff of this, when you walk in the room, they know that you're somebody. Or if I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, I'd say, hey, you know what? This is the best of the best. And I know because that's all I've ever had in my life. The next thing it could be is, hey, a relatability could be about my age. You know what? You look a certain way, you feel a certain way, you are a certain way. Guys, you know what? I just celebrated my 65th birthday. And the reason that there are no wrinkles here is because every day I do this little thing with this thing. Oh my God. People tell me I look 45. Do you want to look 20 years younger? Boom. I don't tell you what it is, why it is. Same thing with my spin gym. I don't sell it. I don't tell you that I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame, that what this is. You know what I do, Rick? Raise your arm. Feel the bottom of your arm. Is it a little wiggly jiggly or is it really tight?
It's really tight.
It is really tight. Are you involved in a relationship with somebody? Yeah, he or she?
I'm sorry, she. Didn't expect that question. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, and you answered it, so we have to have a conversation about that. When she raises her arm, little wiggly jiggly or really tight?
A little bit, little wiggly
right.
jiggle.
All right. So what if you said, you know what, honey, I love you, but if you do this for 5 minutes a day, Forbes Riley invented this thing, and I got to tell you, that woman at 65 got arm like rock. Let's give this a try. I didn't really say anything about it, except if you want your woman to be happy and look good in a bathing suit this summer, you're going to go, I got to get one of those.
Yeah.
So I'm getting you to want what I have, not telling you that you need to give it to her. See that subtle difference? That love conversation is worth billions.
Yeah. Is it that easy with intangibles?
Yes. Give me an intent. Give me anything you want. Let's play.
I need to improve my sales process. I'm not, my company's sales aren't where they need to be.
Okay.
So I'm going to hire a management consultant. Management consultant's going to work with my sales team, et cetera.
What do you sell?
Really sell. I mean, bottom line is we're selling knowledge, selling experience.
Well, those are very different things. And this is a process. And it's why I do teach, and it takes a little while. You're selling knowledge and an experience. Is this
not an experience. Experience. Like I've done this for, 20 years. So I have that.
But when you say this, knowledge of what? What are we talking about? Specificity?
Knowledge of sales processes, sales tools.
So you're selling sales tools.
Correct.
What's this company called?
My company or the company we're talking about?
Either one. If it's a real company or a company, make it up. But
let's call it, let's.
So we're not allowed to do that. Let's go to something realistic, because I'm going to tell you, I can sell anything, but all of these questions are the process that I go through.
Yeah.
So for example, people say, oh, Forbes, you're so good, you could sell ice to Eskimos. The most naive statement on the planet, because Eskimos don't need ice. I know that. I would never sell an Eskimo ice because it doesn't make sense, but I would want to sell them firewood, blankets, and overcoats.
For sure.
So the process of understanding how to pitch is to understand and this is literally my ultimate pitch formula. This part is called the hub. What is it we're doing? Why are we doing it? How are you related to doing it? And all of that has to get answered. The next part of this is who you're pitching. What's the biggest problem they suffer from? So if I'm going into a corporation, guys, going, you know what? Look, we have the ability to come in and overhaul your sales process.
Yeah.
We've done it for X amount of companies, and here's what we do, because we identified you have a real problem.
Yeah.
The way your team talks to customers is turning them off. You give me 3 weeks with your sales team, I'm going to increase your bottom line by 2 zeros just by using my technique. Let's play.
Love it.
So it doesn't matter what there is no thing as an intangible. It's just a thing. Everything is a thing. I have people give me all the time, I'm a dog walking person. Okay, great. That's what you do. Great. So, hi, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm known as the ultimate dog walker because I know you're so busy. They often say that the only reason you ever walk your dog is for your exercise, not because he has to poop. Just so you know, there's no millionaires that walk their own dog, because if you're a millionaire, you're worth $500 an hour. And unless you want to pay me that much, I'd be happy to walk your dog so you can go do what you do best and then play with Fido at night.
Love it. What would you like to leave our audience with?
An invoice? Come on, come play with me, guys. I got to. Yeah, come play with me. Pitch like a pro. And I'll tell you what, I've already left you guys with something. And that is that you can be and become anything that your heart desires if you can get your head on straight. Have an undeniable belief in yourself, and that's not that easy to come by. Because one of the things that everyone here struggles with is a past. You're set up to you're screwed if you have a mother or father. You just screwed. And I mean that really. What happens with mothers and fathers is that those are the environmental part of who we are. We like our parents. We don't like our parents. We're mad at our dad for leaving our mom. We're mad at our mom for not being thin enough. As a kid, you're allowed to be mad at them for anything they want, you want. But bringing that into adult life, I just talked to somebody. He said, well, my mom said that I was, big, fat when I was a kid, whatever. Oh, she said she was 6 years old and her grandmother said to her, and she still remembers it, she's in her 60s now, "You're too pretty to be fat." That's a 50-year-old memory. She carries it with her to this day. So one of the things that you want to do, and I do a training called Breakthrough, we let go of baggage that no longer serves us. I teach you to fall in love. I don't care if your parents beat you. I have a father who raped his daughter. You fall in love with them because it's not them. They are either gone, dead, moved out of the house, but you can't hold on to the anger and the resentment that's keeping you playing small.
Yeah.
Once you figure out how to reframe that, you become this very open, beautiful human being. And that is the genesis, the basis for somebody to want to work with you. If you come to the table and you're angry, men do all this and women do all that, that energy is not attractive. It's very short and brittle and justified. But if you want to be a success, you got to make a shift. That's why personal development became so big. Second thing is you have to practice pitching. It is like the piano. I have a beautiful piano in my house. You know what? And there's only 8 notes. 8 freaking notes make every single piece of music we've ever heard. How's that possible? And if you don't practice those 8 notes a lot, you will not play a song. You will not play a concert. You will not be good at what you do. How many times have you ever practiced your pitch? How many times have you practiced just speaking? You don't. You just speak. And when you speak, you say all sorts of stupid stuff. Write this down, everybody. If you're saying the words actually, basically, like, or trying, you're not winning at the game of life. And the crazy thing is you have 100% control over everything that comes out of your mouth, and most people have no idea. I literally say, you just said the word trying. They're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, listen to the recording. Well, actually, basically, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm here with Rick, and stop all the jittery nonsense. Say what you mean, and mean what you say. And people will take actions. They'll like you better. Your business will move forward. You also, the final 2 pieces of the big C, you want to have clarity in your message. I know we all do a lot of things, but when I ask you, what do you do? I don't need to hear that. Oh, Forbes, I do so many things. I don't really care all the things that you do. And confidence that comes from winning.
Yeah.
And winning comes from practice. You're not going to walk out on a football field and score a touchdown if you've never played the game, studied the playbook, gotten hit a whole lot of times, had to get back up, practice. How many times? Do 2 a days? Really? In the sunshine, in the rain? And why? Because when the moment arrives that it's on the line, the one who practiced the most wins.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody wants to take any of your courses. Where do they need to go? What do they need to do?
Come to ForbesRiley.com. You can see everything there. It's my name. Forbes as in the magazine. Riley is in the good life. Here's a gift for your audience. Every Sunday since COVID hit, except Mother's Day and my birthday, I teach a live training. I've got, sometimes it'll be 200 people who show up. Sometimes it'll be 2,000 people who show up on a Zoom call for 2 hours.
Wow.
I know. I teach some of the key principles. I call it Pitch Secrets Masterclass. And then I'll bring people up just like I did with you. And I will work and tweak people's pitches right there. And it's a whopping $19 to come to class. So you go to pitchsecretsmasterclass.com and you will find me there. And you'll find me very interactive and very willing to talk to you and work with you. It is my give back. I've opened, like I said, over 47,000 people to date. I've opened their ears to new ideas, to the prospect that they could succeed. That being a single working mom is not the end of the world. Holding down 2 jobs, you can get out of that. You can side hustle. And then I also give them a beacon of hope because I'm in business with both of my children. I have twins who just turned 22. My daughter became a millionaire at 17 based on her internet work. She is the CEO of my company and she's never going to college. I wish my parents could have seen this. And then her twin brother, she opened another business with him so that they build landing pages and websites and CRM systems. All of that on $100. I've spent upwards of $40,000 a year doing what they're doing for $97 a month.
Wow.
So I support the two of them. I love what they're doing. I listen to them talk and teach. And my daughter, it's so funny. Her mission statement is that she takes people 40 to 80 years old and puts them online so they can live happy, long, wonderful, productive lives. Because
I
she
love it.
thought because she thought at some point that her 60-year-old mom is the only one who couldn't figure out the internet. They have about 8 80-year-olds who are literally crushing it with their ebooks and their online programs, their wealth of knowledge. They're vibrant, they're wonderful, and no one was going to give them a shot at all until they found us. So I'm grateful for how my story has played out, but it really is here to inspire and uplift a lot of other people. This is coming out. Hopefully, it's literally at the publishers right now. Very excited about Pitch Secrets. Be able to read it. It's going to be a little smaller than that. But I love doing that. I work on the physical. That's so important to me. I've taken authors and put them in collaborative books. This book is 820 pages. I
Wow.
take people and we get results so
Wow.
that you can live an awesome life.
Yeah.
Aren't you just tired of hearing people struggle and complain?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What if there was an answer to all that? What if it was not that hard
Yeah.
to do this? What if you followed somebody who figured out some systems? And then my other question is, what have you Forbes lately? And we talk about Forbesing it, and I'll leave this in your ballpark. To Forbes something means to manifest it, especially when no one else thinks it's possible. Rick, what have you Forbes? What's
My
one?
company, running for the past 19 years.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have an opportunity. Because I went to college, I graduated, nobody would hire me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. And I did.
Congratulations that nobody would hire you. This is what we do in my community. Let me tell you. Go find me on Facebook, because the other thing I do between Facebook and Instagram, because I'm kind of crazy, is I still do all my own DMs. I may not do them immediately, but I will respond to you. If you reach out to me, you ask me a question, you say, hey, because if you go back to the beginning of our story today, for 2 years, I couldn't talk to anybody. And now I'm delighted that I can talk to everybody.
Yeah. 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 How does that feel? I imagine you can't even imagine the number of people you've impacted, but I mean, how does that feel?
It feels like this little girl who was so lonely and so scared and so unhappy for so long got her due. That I remember saying when I was younger, I want to matter. I want to make a difference. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted to matter to somebody. And I remember the day that Facebook came out. And very quickly I had, because all these friends on Facebook, because I've been working my whole life. And when you work as an actress, you're on a set with 100 people. And so I've met tens of thousands of people. And so when this crazy platform launched, and remember thinking before Facebook came out, because my parents are gone and I have no other family, that if I die, who's going to tell the world? Nobody will know. And when Facebook came out and my birthday happened and I got thousands of birthday wishes, I thought, all right, this is good, because that was my biggest concern. And so God forbid, when that does happen one day, people will know about it. And all the people whose lives I've touched, I was on call last night with 200 people on my mastermind, and people were just crying and loving. And I know what I do for people. I am so happy that I've invested my time in others and that I work tirelessly. I really do. I don't need to ever work again if I don't want to, but I freaking love it. I love when I get asked to be on shows. You must be somebody. You must have something to say. When I get asked to do interviews or I keynote around the world, there is nothing better and more exciting than you walking on a stage live. I walked on stage with Grant Cardone in front of 10,000 people. And let me tell you something, that little girl inside of me is going, oh my God, we did it. I hear you. And I freaking love. And then when they want to talk to you afterwards, or they want to hug you, or they want to, does it get any better? And then to layer this on, one last thing I think it's important for everyone to know is that I'm on my second marriage. And somebody sadly said second will be better. And they were right. So, which means you might have to go through your first to get to your second. I don't know. All I know is that I'm in love with a man who thinks the world begins and ends with me. And I wouldn't be here working as hard as I do if I hadn't found this love in my life.
Wow. Wow.
It changed everything. We work very closely together. He is a photographer, videographer. Have you seen Joshua, by the way?
I have. I saw him on Steve Ramona's podcast.
Yeah, Joshua, for those of you who don't know, I'll just give you a little peek because it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. If you are looking for love, what I needed to do to find love at 57 was to really fall in love with me.
Mm.
The moment before I met him, somebody called me on the phone and said, "Hey, are you married?" And I'm like, "Why do you ask?" He says, "'Cause I don't see any love in your work." And I'm like, "Screw you. Everybody loves me. I love everybody." Whatever it is I must have said. But it wasn't the truth. I was truly unhappy, and I didn't know that it was showing. People can see this, and it was not a joke. And I found myself after that conversation going, "Huh, Forbes, what would it take for you to ever want to put on a wedding dress again?" And then I laughed for about a half hour and thought, "All right, stop laughing. It's not a joke. You'd have to be so in love with you and some other person that you'd be willing to devote your life to another person because that's, you know." And then I listed out all the things that I wanted. And then a girlfriend of mine dared me, and I want him to look like he walked off the cover of a romance novel. Put that at the very, very top. As I was in my 50s, I didn't want somebody who looked a certain way. I wanted somebody who looked a different way. I wanted a romance cover, right?
Uh-huh.
So I have a little game that I play, Rick. And I simply say, people ask me all the time, "Can I see a picture of Joshua?" I said, "Yeah, but if you don't say wow when I show you his picture, I'll give you $100. You okay? Ready? So let's take a picture of Joshua. What do you think?
Wow.
Well, look like Joshua." And it's crazy now, but here's the other thing about that story. So people can say he's genetically that way. No, that man he was a scrawny kid,
Was he really?
his whole body. And then 5 years ago, he was in a horrific motorcycle accident
Oh
and
my
lost
goodness.
everything. That picture you just saw is an after photo. He built himself back. The guy on the right is afterwards
Yeah.
because he said, I've not won the Olympia yet. And he did. I've not won Mr. World yet. And he did. And that's the Arnold. So
Wow.
this is the after photo. And it's pretty extraordinary because he's in pain every single day.
Is
He
he?
shattered his ankle. He limps. He'll never walk right. Horrible nerve damage. But he's back in the gym anyway. And he inspires me every day to a level of physical excellence and kindness. And, we talk about life happening for you, not to you. Why is he so kind? Remember I said to you, your dad, something I knew that your dad was in your life? Joshua's father was killed when he was 2 years old in a car crash.
Hmm.
Joshua's mom married the dad's brother, very small town in Ohio, who was killed when Joshua was 15. He's lost 2 dads. His drive and his loyalty
Mhm.
is unlike anyone else you'll ever see because of what happened to him. And I am lucky enough to be the recipient of that. And then the world is lucky enough to get me because he lets me work as crazy hours. Because if it was up to him, we'd be sitting on a beach somewhere and doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
He just knows how important this is to me. Also, when I hang up from you, he's in the other room and I think he's just wearing a board short.
Wow. You're amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I really enjoyed our conversation, really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much.
It was really lovely to meet you as well. And if a group of your peeps want to come, maybe I can give you guys some free passes, but I would love to see you guys on a Sunday coming to learn how to up-level your pitch because it will monetize your message in a way that maybe you've never thought of. I am quite the statistician. I love thinking about things in a very unique way, and it's why I am quote unquote financially successful. But the emotionally, physically, and spiritually success, you can do that easily. One foot in the front of the other, and just believe that you can. Literally look in the mirror and stop looking at the wrinkles or the bald spot or whatever you got that you normally look at. Look that person in the eye and say, "You know what? I love you. I love you just the way you are. You are more than enough. You could be thinner, fitter. You're never going to get younger, but you are the best version of you right now. If you want to improve it, do that tomorrow, but just love you." And I'm pretty crazy about that concept that you just freaking fall in love with you.
That too. I love that too. Folks, this has been Dr. Forbes Riley. Thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.